Okay, so this is my top 10 Akira Kurosawa films. I just want to start off by saying this was really hard to make a top 10 because he has so many really good, solid films that it was really hard to leave certain ones out. Because, it probably would have, I could have made a top 15, a top 20 if I really wanted, but yeah, I had to cut certain movies out, and yeah, so this is gonna be my top 10, and so I just finished this film here, Dio, which was his last film, so I thought it was fitting to finish, with his last film. It was just all right. It was there's a few memorable scenes, but there's nothing I would say nothing amazing about it, but yeah, there's a few really interesting scenes in here. But anyways, that's not my number 10. I just wanted to show that one there. So for me, my number 10 is Redbeard. This is a really good one. It's basically about a young man who he's kind of going to work under this doctor here. They call him Redbeard. And it's kind of like he's working at this clinic, but he doesn't really want to be there at first, and then he starts kind of seeing how the doctor kind of changes his mind on kind of the way he's living his life, and so it's them dealing with different patients and stuff, and he slowly just becomes a better person, which I find happens in a lot of Kurosawa's movies. Many of them are about, becoming a better person, or learning to be kind, or, just to be a kind person. And yeah, so it's kind of an interesting theme that I find he does a lot in his movies. But yeah, so this one, I really liked it, but for me, it was just a little bit long. So that's my number 10. It's over 3 hours. So my number 9 is Rashomon. This is a cool one because it's one of those movies where it's the same story but told from different people's perspective. And I wonder if this was the first movie that was ever like that. Yeah, I should look into that, because I know there's been a few others since then, but this might be the first that was ever like that. So yeah, it's basically about, it shows, I think 3 or 4 different people's perspectives, and yeah, it's pretty trippy. It's pretty intriguing, definitely. Yeah, and it was a really good movie. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, that's my number 9. For my number 8, I chose Drunken Angel. Now this one is similar to Redbeard, but instead of an understudy, it's a doctor and a thug. I think he kind of runs with Yakuza type people, and yeah, he's like a drunk. Or no, wait. The doctor, wait, I'm trying to remember, was he a drunk or was the doctor a drunk? No, I think it was. I think the thug was the drunk. But anyways, um, but yeah. So it kind of it's about the thug, becoming a better person, and through the other character, and and I thought it just worked a little bit better than Redbeard, just because I just preferred I like the gangster aspect of it, and also the because the characters were so different, and also it's much shorter too. It's like an hour and 40 minutes, which I think is a better time frame. But yeah, it's a really good movie. Some touching scenes. And my number 7, I chose The Bad Sleep Well. This is a really interesting one, because it kind of is one of those ones that kind of creeps up on you. And for me anyway, it kind of kept jumping up my list like a little bit more, the more I thought about it, and it has some really good cinematography in this, especially with the, I mean, if you've seen it, it's like in the building, there's a little rose, like in a miniature building, because it takes place like in the office building. It's kind of like a business film, where this guy's trying to, I think he's kind of trying to find out what happened to his dad who worked there, and he has suspicions about like what happened and stuff, and there's a lot of kind of unexpected things happen. Like it kind of turns into like a crime thriller almost movie. Yeah, it's just a really interesting one. Yeah, so that's a really cool one. Now my number 6, I chose Stray Dog. This one was one of the first Kurosawa films I saw, and it's one of his earliest films. That was, I'd say it's like his earliest really, really good film. And it's about a guy, a cop who lost his gun, and the whole movie is him trying to track it down and find out like who took it, or where his gun went. And it's just a really good story. Really, really cool. Yeah, so it's like a mix of different genres. Like there's like a mystery, and then it's like a cop film. It's kind of like a thriller and crime. So yeah, it's if you like that kind of those kind of movies, then you'll like this. And also, I wanted to point out, I think if this film was made in like the late 50s or 60s era, Kurosawa, it would probably be my number 1 or number 2 favorite movie of his. But the quality is a little bit iffy, so it just brings the movie down just a little bit. But I think when he was at the top of his game, I think this film would have been like right up there, my number 1. Okay, my number 5, I believe it is Ron. This is kind of like an epic movie, and it's based on like King Lear. Has really, really good visuals and really good color. Like he has 3 sons, and one is like wears yellow, one wears red, one wears blue, I'm pretty sure. And and the father character slowly gets like crazier and crazier throughout the movie, and looks crazy too. But yeah, it's just it was really good. Like it's like it kind of leaves you speechless. It feels like when you're watching it, you feel like you're watching something special or something that like will go down in history. That's like the vibe that it gives off. And some really cool shots, some really cool like memorable scenes, kind of some couple scary parts here and there maybe. And yeah, I just love that movie. So that's my 5. And I just wanted to quickly just give a little shout out to this VHS copy that I found at a thrift store. So yeah, that's cool. Okay, my number 4, I chose Throne of Blood. It's another samurai movie. Really similar to Ron, except this one is based on Macbeth, and it's in black and white, not in color. So that's like, because sometimes these movies they're kind of similar, these two. So sometimes I get them mixed in my head a little bit, but then I remember this one's black and white, the other one's color. So that's a good way of telling them apart. But yeah, it's a really crazy movie. And when I first read the synopsis, like what it was about, before I watched it, it sounded so crazy. I was like, wow, this movie sounds really good. Like, has potential to be like one of my favorite movies by the sounds of it. And yeah, and it didn't disappoint. It's really good. There's some legitimately like creepy parts with the because as you know, like Macbeth runs into like deals with witches in the Shakespeare. So this one, I think it's kind of like a ghost or like a spirit. That's really creepy as hell. And it was one of those movies where I was watching it, I felt like I had seen it before, like in a past life. But and also, there's like an end, like the scene towards the end with the arrows. If anyone, I'm sure people watching this have seen. But yeah, the end scene with those arrows is unbelievable. Like when I was watching that, I just could not take my eyes off of it. It's crazy. And yeah, so it's just a really amazing movie. It's my number 4. My number 3, I chose The Hidden Fortress. This one's a really fun like adventure movie. The story is awesome. It really kept me glued to the screen, even though I think it's pretty long as well. He's done a lot of long movies. Yeah, this is over 2 hours, but this one really keeps you entertained like the whole way. There's some really cool scenes with the princess character. She's really awesome in this. And then there's the 2 funny characters, and they're kind of like in Star Wars. So George Lucas got a lot of inspiration from this movie, and there's 2 kind of like funny characters, and they're like the R2-D2 and C3PO kind of thing. But yeah, it's just a really entertaining movie. I had a lot of fun watching that one. My number 2, I chose High and Low. This one is like there's something about this one that really intrigues you, at least for me anyway. And I felt like just glued to the screen. And that's when you know that there's something really magical going on, is when I find I'm glued to the screen and I can't explain why. Yeah, that one really gives me this vibe. And also, so it's like really, obviously it's amazingly well done. But yeah, and then there's parts that like really like little things. Like there's a scene where like the smoke, so the movie's in black and white, but then the smoke is in like a peachy, like reddish color. And just little things like that where I was like, wow, that was an awesome little touch. Yeah, and it's like, so it's basically about a guy who's it's also kind of about business, because he works for a company, or he's like the head of a company, and his son gets kidnapped and he's getting these calls, and it's about like clashes of like rich culture and like poor culture, and yeah, so, but yeah, it just blew me away. And like, also the more I thought about it, also the better it got, which I love. Okay, now my number one, which, you know, I don't know why it's my number one. I just like kind of fell in love with the movie, Akira. It's a really, really interesting movie. I, like, when I first was watching this, I was not expecting to like it as much as I do. Yeah, I wasn't really sure where it would land in my, like, as I was making this list, but yeah, it's just awesome. It's like a really, really touching movie. I really like the pacing. So it's about a guy who finds out, you know, he's gonna die, and then it just shows like little ways that he kind of changes his life and stuff, and he, you know, decides to do certain things, and then you see how it like how that affects other people and their way of, you know, living. And it's kind of like that thing, like, you know, like what's it called, like pass it forward. I can't think of that expression right now, but pay it forward or whatever. And yeah, and there's just some really like funny parts. There's I just loved how the story wrapped up. Like how everything wrapped up to me was like a perfect story, perfect ending, like just a perfect, and it's not too like depressing either. It's like a hopeful kind of movie as well, which I thought was amazing. And yeah, and it shot really, really well, like beautifully shot. And yeah, so I think he was just like really at his prime while he was making this film. And yeah, so that's my personal number one. And then I wanted to give some shout outs here, especially, you know, Seven Samurai. People probably think I'm crazy for leaving this off my top 10. But yeah, for me, it's always been one that's like, I've watched it a few times because I know that it has so much hype. And so I watched it a few times to see, like, am I going to get more into this? And like, the more I watch it. And for me, I just think it's good, but I personally, I just prefer, you know, the other films I've mentioned here. But yeah, so I wanted to shout out that one. And I wanted to shout out, I think, Sanjuro, which I preferred over your Yojimbo for some reason. And I wanted to shout out, I also wanted to shout out Dersu Uzala. That's a really good movie about these explorers. I believe they're in Russia, or at least the explorers are Russian. But yeah, that's a really good one. And also, I wanted to give a big shout out to Kagemusha, because it has my favorite visual in any Kurosawa film, actually. As far as like scene or slash, like a sequence slash visual, just slash shot. And like the dream, I believe it's a dream sequence or a vision sequence or something, in Kagemusha is absolutely gorgeous, and it is amazing. I really, really wanted to love that movie, and it's still good, but I didn't prefer it I preferred these ones here. But yeah, so I really wanted to give that one a shout out. But anyways, yeah, so that's my personal top 10, and thank you.